Okay, so in this demonstration, I'm gonna try, again, if this is your host for development machine, in the internet somewhere, there's a site called Docker Hub, and it has many, many images that other people have made for you to use, especially open source. So what we're gonna try to do is first download the image, and I'm going to use the Nginx image, which is the same one that's in your exercise, to hopefully add some familiarity. So once first we're going to try to download it, then we're actually going to run a container from the image. So you can think of an image like a file, or if you're familiar with virtual machines, like an ISO, it's kind of like static. It's like a blueprint, if you will. And then we're going to run a container from that image. So one of the benefits of containers is with the same image, you can run multiple containers. So things like Google and Amazon and Facebook, where they have to support millions, billions, I don't know how many users. Instead of buying a machine to handle more users, they can leverage. They can leverage more containers. They can spin up containers, and each container can then handle more users. So yeah, of course they could buy more machines too. For startups, it's kind of hard to buy machines. It's easier to just use like Amazon's cloud service, AWS, and spin up containers. And then if you have more users, you just spin up more containers. So with that, we don't need to scale our little Hello World app. So we'll just be spinning up one container. And then from there, we're going to use it. We're going to use our web browser. Let's try to keep the color consistent. So the containers are blue. We're going to use a web browser. So this is like the Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, all that. And then we're going to use the browser to kind of make a page request to the container, and then have that page come back and get displayed on the browser. So that is more or less what we're going to try to demonstrate today. So if we follow this file and ISO analogy, if the image is the file in the ISO, the container is the application. That's running, and in terms of the VM, it is the actual VM that's running. So if the image is like the blueprint to a house, the container is actually building a house to that blueprint. If that, hopefully that helps. But any questions, comments, concerns on that? All right, so now let's do it. So we have you can do it through the command line. This is the first time I'm using this extension. So what I'm used to doing is using Docker images, and you'll notice that this is a what do you call this? This is an image, and so is this one. So that's already downloaded onto this machine. So if we were to go back, these are the images that's already. Can I do this? That's already been downloaded to my machine. So we're going to download the new one, Nginx, and hopefully you'll see it here, and you'll see it here from the command line. And then the other thing that's useful is that the containers that are actually running. And right now there's no container running. And if we do Docker PS, there's no containers running. We have images, the blueprints, but nothing is actually built. No houses are actually built. No VMs are running, though we have the ISOs. All right. So let's go to Docker Hub. This is like the GitHub of containers and images. This is where people share their images, and we are going to use Nginx, which is a web server, very popular. And like all great open source projects, their documentation tells you how to use it. It's like a README. Sorry, maybe that's too small. So we are gonna just use it first. You can add stuff to an image and make new images based off of a base image, but we'll go through that a little bit later. So here, this is how you run it with Docker, with straight Docker. We're eventually use Docker Compose to wrap around it. Okay. So let's just first download it. So this is how you download it, Docker pull. So this would be this part where we take the image from Docker Hub and save the image into our development machine. So let's do that. And you can copy it here too. Paste that into a terminal. And then we should see Nginx image show up. So here's reaching out to Docker Hub, pulling down the image, and how the containers works is it's a layer. You can think of it as a cake. A coworker gave me this analogy, and it's kind of nice. So the image is the cake, and each cake or each image is based off of layers. So every time you add a file to the base image, it's adding a layer onto the file system. So here we've downloaded it, and you see our Nginx image is there. And if we want to verify through the command line, oops, not that one, you'll see it. And then tags are like the versionings. It's good to use specific tags, but for now, we'll keep it simple. Some of these tags, like Alpine, is a base OS, is very thin and minimal, so reduces the attack surface, so more secure. So if you're deploying it, you want to run containers that are small, so that's nice. But otherwise, you have the versions. So those are all tags. I normally just use the version number, And if I need to go to production, then I'll think about using a smaller image. But for now, for development and for learning, let's just use the simplest and easiest. Okay, so here we've downloaded it. So in our diagram, we have this image on our host machine now. So the next step is to run this image, build a container off of that image. So that's our next step. And if we look at the documentation, where did it go? It'll tell you how to run it. So we'll just you give it a name so you can refer back to it. And then this is how you mount files from your host into the container. We won't do that just yet. And the D is for daemon to run in the background. We won't do that because we want to be able to stop the container. So let's do that. We're not going to run in as a daemon or in the background. We are not going to mount any files into the container. We will give it a name. Example, running Nginx. And I'm hoping that once we run it, it'll show up here. Okay. So the container's running. You see it. Wow, it actually shows you inside the container. That's neat. And if we were to inspect it through the command line, you'll see the same container. Here's the name we gave it, so we can stop it easily. So let's stop it. So Control C should stop it. And there you see it stopped. And I guess this rectangle means it's stopped running. So if you wanted it to run in the background, this is what would happen. It'll run. Oh, so we'll have to give it another name. Actually, let's see. Let's see how we gotta remove it. And we just give it the container name, I think. Okay, so we'll remove it and give it our nice, easy to remember name. If you don't provide the name, it's gonna give you like this kind of crazy name that is kind of hard to remember. So once we remove it, it's gone. And so let's do it again with the daemon. So here, you notice you no longer see the logs like we did before. And if you do Control C, it won't stop it. So then the only way to stop it now is to use the name again. So Docker, I wonder if you can just remove it. No, you have to stop it first. So Docker stop, the name of the container. And here it stopped for you. And then we do Docker PS, it's gone. And now we can remove it. So that's kind of running in a nutshell. Let me just show you one other thing here. If I run the container without specifying the name, it'll create a name for you. So it'll create this arbitrary name. So that's there if you want to have them choose a name for you. So then it's also good to remove it. Okay, so now we're back to square one. Just to recap what we did. So we ran this and we stopped it. And the next step is to kind of have our browser use it. Running it in the command line doesn't really do us any good. So here we go. Let's just run it again. And we won't put in the daemon. Again, if you need to drop off, please feel free. It'll be saved. What you'll then notice, if we do Docker PS, is that the container is listening on port 40, but if we go to local host, port 80, it doesn't reach it because though it is the container is listening on 80, the host, when you go to localhost from your browser, is going to the host 80. So then what we need to do is kind of map the port so that the host, and the browser requests to the host 80 will get routed to the container 80. And that's the next step here. And to do that, we use this port flag. So let's stop our container. And then I think we can start it so we don't have to delete it. And then we'll pass in our port. So I guess to make things a little bit more obvious, we're going to use 8080 on our local host. So we'll use 8080 on our local host and then map that to the container. So the colon means, it normally means 2. Sorry, I haven't been checking my chat. So it means map the host port 8080 to the container port 80. So that's what this is trying to say. Host port 8080 to port 80. And then let's see if we can do that. Yeah, so I use Docker Compose. There's probably a way to restart it, but I'm just gonna kill it since I don't know how to do that outside of Docker Compose. So we'll start it again with our port. And here, if we do the Docker PS, you notice that the localhost 8080 is mapped to the container 80. So they're called ports. So now, if we try to visit localhost 8080, we should hopefully see something. And that's your Nginx splash page. And this is part of your assignment. If you can get to this page, then that's success. So sanity check here, if we stop the container, this page should not exist anymore. So Docker, okay, so it's a question about why 000 and not the normal 127.0.01 or 192.168.0.1. So the way Docker does their networking, it creates another interface, and the 00 kind of accounts for that extra interface. So that's a little beyond me on how Docker does it, but the 127.0.0.1 and the 192.168.0.1, you're kind of still using the host interfaces, I think. But once you have Docker networking, you need to kind of account for the 000. So I think I'm gonna stop here since we're over time. And then tomorrow we'll pick up again and we'll go through Docker Compose. So I want to pause for a little bit in case there's any more questions, comments, concerns, and I'll ask again after I stop the video. All right, so let's stop the video. Any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I say let's just break today. Oh wait, I stopped.
The video's still recording.
Yeah.